Hey, how you doing?
Who are you?
I'm your Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck wasn't just another John Hughes comedy. It was chaos wrapped in comfort food. But behind the slapstick, it was doubt from the very start. Hughes chased bigger names before John Candy. Executives didn't believe he could carry a film, and no one expected a grumpy uncle to anchor a family hit. These are 20 weird facts about Uncle Buck, and buried in the noise and the mess, it became the movie that sparked Home Alone and turned John Candy into one of the most beloved stars of the 80s. This wasn't just comedy. It was heart disguised as chaos. Number 1. It's impossible now to imagine anyone but John Candy barging through that doorway as Uncle Buck. Coat too big, face too warm, pancakes too enormous. But when John Hughes first conceived the film, Candy wasn't even on the list. Hughes wanted star power. He chased Jack Nicholson, thinking his wild-eyed unpredictability would electrify the role. Nicholson passed. Danny DeVito's gruff charm seemed perfect for a cranky bachelor, until scheduling conflicts pushed him away. Even Robin Williams' name floated around, his manic energy offering a different kind of chaos, but none of them stuck. Candy, meanwhile, wasn't the obvious choice. He was beloved, yes, but mostly in ensembles or sketch comedy. Few executives believed he could carry a film as the lead. Hughes disagreed. He tore back into the script, reshaping Buck's sharp edges with Candy's signature warmth and humor in mind. When cameras finally rolled, the gamble paid off. Candy turned a foul-mouthed slob into a character audiences adored. Messy but tender, crude but lovable. Nicholson wouldn't have made him gentle. DeVito wouldn't have made him tender. Williams wouldn't have made him grounded. Not their Buck. Not anyone's Buck. Only Candy's Buck. Number 2. For John Hughes, Uncle Buck wasn't just another comedy. It was the start of a new empire. The film became the first release under Hughes Entertainment, his brand new production company backed by a multi-picture deal with Universal. It was meant to secure his next decade of films, and it worked, at least partly. That deal gave Hughes the runway for early 90s projects like Career Opportunities and Beethoven. But here's the twist. His biggest smash, Home Alone, didn't even go through Universal. It went to Fox. So the movie that kicked off his Universal era also revealed how restless Hughes really was. He'd used the studio's support to build his company, but his biggest success came when he left. Number 3. Before Uncle Buck, Macaulay Culkin was just another kid auditioning in Chicago. He was 9 years old, small for his age, but when he opened his mouth, John Hughes noticed something different. Culkin had timing, a sharp wit that let him land sarcasm like an adult, but with the innocent face of a child. Hughes cast him as Miles, the cheeky younger brother, and on set, Culkin proved he could do more than just recite lines. He sparred with John Candy in scenes that should have swallowed him whole, firing back quips with a confidence most kids couldn't fake. Amy Madigan remembered being stunned that a child could keep up with Candy's improvisations without breaking stride. That spark changed everything. Hughes realized Culkin wasn't just a good child actor. He was the child actor he'd been searching for. In that moment, Hughes began sketching an idea in his head. What if this kid wasn't just part of the chaos, but the center of it? For Culkin, Uncle Buck wasn't simply a first major role. It was the film that convinced Hughes to write Home Alone specifically for him. One sarcastic 9-year-old had held his ground against John Candy, and then came the scene that would change movie history.
Where do you live?
In the city.
What do you do for a living?
Lots of things.
Where's your office?
I don't have one.
Do you have kids?
No, I don't.
How come?
It's an even longer story. I'm your dad's brother, all right.
You have much more hair on your nose than my dad.
How nice of you to notice.
I'm a kid, that's my job.
Number 4. Sometimes an entire franchise begins with one joke. In Uncle Buck, there's a moment where young Miles interrogates Buck's girlfriend through the front door's mail slot. It was a throwaway gag on the page, a nosy kid firing off rapid questions. But when Macaulay Culkin delivered it, something electric happened. His timing was razor sharp, his sarcasm effortless. He turned a small joke into one of the film's standout laughs. John Hughes watched from behind the camera and saw more than just a funny scene. He saw a lead actor. The way Culkin fired off those lines, suspicious, clever, completely in control, Hughes suddenly imagined him defending an entire house. What if this kid weren't just interrogating a babysitter, but burglars? What if the whole movie belonged to him? That single spark grew into Home Alone. Hughes went home, wrote the script in a rush, and crafted it specifically around Culkin's wit. 2 years later, it became a $476 million global phenomenon. A tiny scene with a mail slot became the foundation of one of the biggest family blockbusters of all time. Lightning struck, and Hughes never let it go. Number 5. The script may have been written by John Hughes, but the funniest lines in Uncle Buck came straight from John Candy. He couldn't resist tossing in new jokes on the fly. Take the infamous line,
Take this quarter, go downtown, and have a rat gnaw that thing off your face.
That wasn't in the script. Candy threw it out mid-scene, and Hughes laughed so hard he ordered it kept in. The movie is filled with those moments. Candy refusing to color inside the lines, trusting his instincts to make Buck sharper, funnier, and more unpredictable than Hughes had originally imagined. For his co-stars, it was both a gift and a nightmare. Amy Madigan, who played Janice, admitted it was almost impossible to keep a straight face when Candy started riffing. He'd purposely lob new lines during her close-ups, trying to break her composure while the cameras rolled. The result was a film where even the actors looked like they were barely holding it together. Candy didn't just create Uncle Buck. He created an atmosphere where the cast laughed as hard as the audience. On screen, Buck broke every rule. Off screen, Candy broke the cast.
You ever hear of a tune-up?
You ever hear of a ritual killing? You know on her face in public like that again and you'll be one.
Number 6. John Hughes built his reputation on Chicago. From Ferris Bueller's Day Off to 16 Candles, his comedies lived and breathed the Midwest, which makes it surprising that Uncle Buck wasn't supposed to be there at all. In Hughes's earliest drafts, the story unfolded in St. Louis. It had families, it had suburbia, but it didn't have the Chicago DNA that audiences had come to expect from him. The snowy backdrop, the familiar neighborhoods, even the rhythms of the dialogue, none of it was in place yet. But as Hughes kept rewriting, he felt something missing. Chicago wasn't just a location for him, it was home. It was the shorthand for his characters' lives, the geography of their quirks and flaws. Moving the film back gave it the texture that made his other comedies timeless. The slushy streets, the cold wind, the ordinary houses where extraordinary chaos played out. When Uncle Buck finally hit theaters, it didn't feel like a story dropped anywhere in America. It felt like another chapter in Hughes's Chicago universe. Buck didn't belong in St. Louis, he belonged in Chicago, and Hughes knew it. Number 7. The classrooms in Uncle Buck weren't built on a soundstage. They were filmed inside New Trier High School in Illinois, a real building that had been partially abandoned and repurposed for movies. It was one of John Hughes's favorite shooting grounds. He had already used it for Ferris Bueller's Day Off and would return again for Home Alone. For Uncle Buck, New Trier gave him something no studio set could. Real hallways, real lockers, and that stiff institutional feel every kid remembers. That authenticity made Buck's showdown with the assistant principal even funnier. The comedy landed harder because it felt like it was happening in the school you grew up in.
Tell you what, let me go in there first, okay? I'll cover. Give you a little more time out here. Relax. All right?
Number 8. That mountain of pancakes wasn't movie magic. It was John Candy, standing over a hot griddle, flipping batter into stacks big enough to cover a table. The scene feels like cartoon excess, but the food was real. Flour, eggs, smoke, and all. Crew members swore Candy actually flipped those pancakes himself, laughing as he wrestled with them, sneaking bites between takes. The only trick? The syrup was watered down so it wouldn't turn into a gluey mess on camera. Everything else was exactly what it looked like. A giant, ridiculous breakfast cooked by a giant, ridiculous man. Candy didn't just play Uncle Buck. In that moment, he was him, a character so over the top, even breakfast became legendary.
Happy birthday! I hope you're hungry.
Number 9. The heart of Uncle Buck is the constant tension between Buck and his niece Tia. On screen, it's sarcasm, slammed doors, and teenage rebellion. But when the camera stopped, it couldn't have been more different. Jean Louisa Kelly, who played Tia, said John Candy treated her with nothing but warmth. She called working with him an honor and a privilege. There was no clash, no coldness. Candy went out of his way to make her feel comfortable, like family. That's why their dynamic worked so well. The edge you see on screen was performance, but the affection underneath was real. The man who played the most annoying uncle in the world turned out to be the kindest one anyone could hope for. Number 10. One of the movie's funniest gags comes when Buck decks a drunk birthday clown, but the joke is even better once you know who was under the makeup. The role was played by Mike Starr, a character actor known for playing mobsters, thugs, and heavies in films like Goodfellas and Dumb and Dumber. Instead of a silly prankster, Starr delivered the part with grimy authenticity, a clown who looked like he'd stumbled in from the wrong side of Chicago. And when John Candy punched him out, audiences weren't just laughing at the gag, they were laughing at the irony. The clown wasn't some bumbling extra. He was one of Hollywood's go-to tough guys, taking a pratfall for comedy instead of pulling a gun in a crime drama.
Get in your mouse and get out of here.
Hey, you, let me tell you something, you low shit.
Number 11. The Russell family's cozy suburban house wasn't just a Hollywood facade. It's a real home, standing at 2602 Lincoln Street in Evanston, Illinois. Fans still drive by to take pictures, recognizing the doorway where John Candy first barged in as Buck. And Buck's dingy bachelor apartment? That wasn't a soundstage either. It's a real building in Chicago, right across from Wrigley Field at 3708 and Sheffield Avenue. In the film, it looked like a dump. Today, fans treat it as a shrine. More than 3 decades later, both spots are still there. For movie lovers, it means you can step directly into Buck's world and walk the same paths where Hughes and Candy built one of the most chaotic comedies of the 80s. Number 12. Even the movie's marketing went through its own makeover. The original theatrical poster showed Buck pounding on the Russell family's door while the entire family pushed to keep him out. It was a portrait of chaos, a grown man literally forcing his way into the movie. But when Uncle Buck hit VHS, Universal made a curious change. 3 of the family members were airbrushed out, leaving only young Miles and Maisie bracing against the door. The shift wasn't accidental. The studio wanted to reframe the film as a kids' comedy, highlighting its 2 breakout child stars instead of the family as a whole. In the end, the poster told the story twice. First as a wild, candy-driven farce, and later as a family-friendly adventure with kids front and center.
My uncle was microwaving my socks and the dog threw up on the couch for about an hour.
Why was your uncle microwaving your socks?
Can't get the goddamn washing machine to work.
Blasphemer!
Number 13. On screen, Uncle Buck was gruff, impatient, and a little rough around the edges. Off screen, John Candy was the opposite, gentle, thoughtful, and endlessly generous. Jean Louisa Kelly, who played Tia, remembered her birthday falling during production. Candy surprised her with a cake and made the entire crew stop to celebrate. For a teenager stepping into her first major role, it meant the world. Crew members recalled similar gestures, Candy buying small gifts, treating them to dinners, or inviting them to laugh and share drinks after long shooting days. He wasn't just a star who showed up, did his lines, and went home. Candy made people feel seen. His warmth set the tone on set, turning a stressful production into something that felt like family. That's why cast and crew still talk about him with such reverence. Buck's heart on screen wasn't an act Hughes wrote. It was Candy's own heart, shining through in every scene. For audiences, he made Buck lovable. For the people around him, he made life better.
You know what I'd like you to do? I'd like you to apologize to the lady, please.
I'm sorry! I'm sorry!
I don't know if I told you this or not, but I'm an amateur dentist.
Number 14. For much of the 1980s, John Hughes and John Candy were inseparable. Hughes gave Candy some of his most iconic roles, from the desperate shower curtain ring salesman in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles to the overgrown babysitter in Uncle Buck. But after 1989, that partnership quietly ended. Hughes moved on to other projects, writing and producing films like Home Alone and Beethoven, while Candy took roles elsewhere. Uncle Buck would stand as the last major vehicle Hughes ever built specifically around Candy's talents. For fans, that made the film bittersweet. It wasn't just another Hughes comedy, it was a farewell of sorts. The final showcase of Candy's mix of heart and hilarity in the director's hands who understood him best. Number 15. Uncle Buck's smoke-belching ride was more than just a prop. It was a running gag in itself. The car was a 1977 Mercury Marquis Brougham, a huge hulk of metal the crew lovingly nicknamed the Beast. Every time it roared to life on screen, audiences laughed at the ridiculous backfire. But that noise wasn't the car at all. It was sound effects mixed from a gunshot and a firecracker. The result was so explosive it made the car feel like a character, as unpredictable as Buck himself. By the time the credits rolled, fans remembered the car almost as much as the man behind the wheel. Buck didn't just drive the beast, he tamed it. Number 16. When Uncle Buck hit theaters in 1989, no one was sure if John Candy could carry a movie on his own. He was beloved from sketch comedy and ensemble films, but he had never been asked to headline a family story without big names around him. To Universal, the $15 million production felt like a small gamble. Then, the numbers rolled in. Uncle Buck earned $79 million worldwide, more than 5 times its budget. It didn't just make money. It proved Candy could hold the screen as the lead, delivering both slapstick chaos and unexpected warmth. Families came in droves. Kids roared at the pancakes, the car, the clown. Parents found themselves charmed by Candy's mix of bluster and tenderness. The success reshaped Candy's career. No longer just the sidekick or comic relief, he was suddenly a bankable star who could anchor a film. For Hughes, it validated his instincts to rewrite the part around Candy. What was supposed to be a modest comedy became a runaway success, and what was supposed to test Candy made him a star. Number 17. When Uncle Buck opened in 1989, critics weren't kind. Reviews called it mean-spirited, too crude, and uneven. Some complained that John Hughes had abandoned sharp plotting for cheap gags, letting John Candy's improvisations run wild instead of keeping the story tight. But audiences didn't agree. Families filled theaters, kids howled at the chaos, and parents saw something critics missed: the warmth underneath the noise. Candy wasn't just being crude, he was showing heart, and audiences felt it. Over time, the movie's reputation flipped. What was dismissed as messy became recognized as one of Hughes's warmest comedies, a story where chaos and kindness lived side by side. The critics thought it was disposable. The audiences knew it was timeless. Number 18. The box office success of Uncle Buck made studios confident it could live on past the original film, but every attempt to extend it fizzled. In 1990, CBS tried a sitcom version with Kevin Meaney in the lead. It struggled to capture the film's charm and vanished after one season. Decades later, ABC tried again in 2016, this time with Mike Epps. The reboot collapsed even faster, canceled after just 8 episodes. And yet the strangest spin-off came from overseas. In 1991, an Indian remake titled Uncle Bun transplanted the story into a new culture. Even there, audiences could recognize the core idea: a messy outsider whose heart wins over a family. But none of these versions stuck. Each one proved the same truth: without John Candy, there was no Uncle Buck. Number 19. Before Uncle Buck, John Candy was a sketch comic, a supporting player, and the lovable sidekick. He was known for SCTV, ensemble films like Stripes, and adult comedies where his size and timing made him unforgettable. But he hadn't yet proven he could carry a family film on his own. This movie changed everything. As Uncle Buck, Candy was sloppy and loud, but also fiercely loyal, protective, and full of heart. Parents saw a character with depth, kids saw a walking cartoon, and together they made him a box office draw. The film's $79 million success announced Candy as more than a supporting actor. He was now a leading man families trusted. For many fans, Uncle Buck wasn't just another role. It became the one that defined him, the moment John Candy stopped being a sidekick and became a star. Number 20. On screen, Uncle Buck's household is a patchwork of mismatched personalities. But for 2 cast members, the family ties weren't just fiction. They had already played mother and daughter earlier that same year. Amy Madigan, who plays Buck's long-suffering girlfriend Janice, had starred in Field of Dreams only months before, playing Annie Kinsella, mother to a little girl named Karen, played by Gabby Hoffman. That same Gabby Hoffman turned around and played Maisie in Uncle Buck. For audiences watching in 1989, it was an accidental reunion, the same mother-daughter duo appearing in 2 very different family films within months of each other. In one, they were part of a baseball fable. In the other, they were the grounding heart of a messy comedy. It was a strange twist of casting fate, but it made Uncle Buck's family feel even more real. Bonus fact: more than 3 decades later, Uncle Buck survives as more than just a comedy. It's a snapshot of late 1980s suburbia, frozen in amber. The smoke-belching Mercury Marquise, Candy's gruff trench coat, cassette tapes on the counter, giant pancakes on the table, it all captures a moment in time when Hughes's vision of the Midwest was part fantasy, part reality. Families recognized themselves in the details, and kids remembered the sheer chaos of having an adult who didn't play by the rules. The movie isn't just rewatched for laughs. It's revisited because it feels like its era, a time when comedies were warm, messy, and endlessly quotable. Uncle Buck isn't just a film. It's the 1980s. Loud, awkward, heartfelt, and unforgettable. Uncle Buck could have been forgotten. Just another messy comedy, another John Hughes experiment, but instead, it became one of the most enduring family films of its era. It survived shaky reviews, failed spin-offs, and doubts about John Candy's ability to lead. And in the end, it gave us more than just laughs. It gave us Culkin's first spark, Hughes's last great Candy role, and a time capsule of a decade when movies were unpolished, but full of heart. If John Candy's warmth, Culkin's mischief, or even those giant pancakes still live in your memory, drop a comment. Tell us what heartfelt classic we should revisit next, because some uncles never leave, especially Uncle Buck.